New York Jets guard Laken Tomlinson took a big step back in 2022. So let's take a look at the film and I'll show you what went wrong for Tomlinson last season, but also why his bounce back is so important to the Jets' success. Let's go. What is going on, everybody? It's Luke here from Play Like a Jet, and we are back in the film room with another All-22 breakdown, and today we're looking at Laken Tomlinson. The stats don't tell the full story about his season. He may have only allowed one sack and had one penalty against, but he was really poor for the Jets. He had a PFF grade of 56.8, and on top of that allowed 32 pressures from the left guard spot. Not good enough from a guy that was a Pro Bowl caliber player in San Francisco. The issues for him started in pass protection. Week 1 is a great example of that. Struggled mightily against the bull rush and keeping his chest clean. So here we go, right hand side of your screen, left guard Laken Tomlinson against the 4-tech. Have a look how he loses the battle at the line of scrimmage and is just blown straight through as Joe Flacco's forced to get rid of that football. The issue for him off the snap, over pass sets, opens himself up massively to the inside. Could be a great counter move opportunity here for number 92. Doesn't need it though. He decides to bulldoze through Laken Tomlinson with speed to power. He's able to do so because of the hand placement of Laken. They are late, they are wide, and they are high. That allows the DT to go straight through the chest. He controls the rep, bull rushes, easy displacement, disengage, and that should be a sack. It doesn't show up on the box score, but this is a big time loss for Laken Tomlinson. You can't give up your chest to the defensive tackle. He gets bullied and bulldozed, and it is not good enough. Laken Tomlinson struggled mightily in week 1, and unfortunately it wasn't the only time. Same thing, same game, week 1, Laken Tomlinson, this time loses in a slightly different fashion. You're going to see him go for the early punch this time, but have a look how the defensive tackle controls Laken Tomlinson's right wrist. He grabs the right wrist, left hand side of your screen, throws it out of the way, and then converts speed to power with the long inside arm. Laken Tomlinson gets pushed 7 to 8 yards backwards, collapses the pocket. Joe Flacco, with no mobility, is being forced to flush out. He runs straight into the defensive end, and it's an intentional grounding. I said it before, this doesn't go down as a sack, but this is a negative play because Laken Tomlinson is pushed 8 yards into the backfield. His early punch is defeated, the inside right arm, unable to anchor, just way too easy for number 92. But Laken Tomlinson also had his fair share of issues against finesse pass rush moves. Week 18 against the Dolphins, look how quickly off the snap Laken loses against this swim move. Bang. Less than a second, and this rep is over for the Jets. Flacco's got to force it downfield early. That's going to be an incompletion. But it's because Laken Tomlinson gets blown by. He barely touches him. As soon as 92 puts his hands up, goes for this swim move, you have to impact him and throw him off under the armpit. You have to meet him with force and be aggressive underneath that left-hand side of his body. He opens himself up for contact. Laken Tomlinson whiffs. He goes to try and lean on him with the left shoulder. There is no punch. There is no extension of the arms. There is just this lean. He gets blown past. Michael Carter gets blown up, and that is far too easy for the Miami Dolphins. You have to make sure you identify the swim move, you have your head and hands up, and you're able to impact him underneath the armpit. Tomlinson doesn't, and that means the play is over for the New York Jets. But on top of that, there were a lot of mental mistakes from Laken Tomlinson last year. I know every now and then an offensive lineman is going to miss the snap count, but on this play against Denver, it looks like his PlayStation controller is just not plugged in. Left hand side of your screen, number 78. Have a look at Tomlinson, miss the snap count, doesn't react at all, and Zach Wilson is ambushed. He has to make 4 people miss just to throw this football away. Again, it's not a sack, but it's a huge mistake from Laken Tomlinson. He misses the snap count. As a result, Dwayne Brown is looking for inside help here. Trail hand with the right hand goes up. Dwayne Brown's nowhere to be found. He has been bowled over by the 0-tech, or the 1 technique I should say, doesn't move, and that leads to Zach Wilson being chased around and having to throw it away. You have to have more awareness than this. It isn't just about the fact that he missed the snap count, it's that he was still standing there 2 seconds later. Not good enough for me. Here's another mental mishap, this time against the Minnesota Vikings. Look, I could be wrong, there could be some kind of communication and slide here, but for me, Tomlinson completely whiffs on this play. You can see the Vikings are showing pressure. They've got a linebacker mugging the A-gap straight over Connor McGovern here. So, off the snap, when they bring this pressure, Why is Laken Tomlinson leaking out to Harrison Smith, the safety? He has to take the 3 technique, make sure he handles number 99, but he lets him go straight through. Ole, Mike White gets absolutely cut in half. I don't understand what Tomlinson's doing here. He cannot expect that Connor McGovern's going to bump across and slide in pass pro here when he's got a linebacker straight over him. The rule of thumb is if there's pressure coming, you have to let the outside guy be the pressure and the free rusher. You cannot let someone run through the A gap, and that's just not good enough. He nearly gets Mike White killed. Yes, he bounces back with a great throw to Corey Davis on 4th down, but he's doing so with near broken ribs because of the play of his left guard. This just isn't good enough. Laken Tomlinson has to be aware of what's happening to Connor McGovern, why he can't slide over and help, and he can't chip, slide, and try and get to Harrison Smith. That's a mistake from number 78. So now let's transition to Laken Tomlinson as a run blocker, because he was really good there in San Francisco, but again, it didn't translate in 2022. Against the Dolphins, left-hand side of your screen, number 78, have a look at Laken Tomlinson. The way he's overly aggressive out of his stance. Yeah, he's athletic, he shoots out well, he's explosive, but he doesn't have eyes on the 3 technique. He oversets, he leaves his inside shoulder to be exposed, and the running back gets blown up for a loss of 5 yards. This just isn't how you can start a drive. You have to make sure that you read and react to the movement skills. Yes, the O-line is the dictator on these plays, but you have to have an eye and an understanding of what the defensive tackle's trying to do. Tomlinson shoots off the ball, lacks the discipline, the mental awareness, and it leads to a big negative play for the New York Jets. You got to get hands on him. You're allowed to be aggressive, you're allowed to shoot out of your stance, but you can't whiff like Laken Tomlinson did here. And the last rep here for Tomlinson against the Broncos, I'm going to be honest, the Jets ask a lot of Laken to go from his left guard spot to the opposite shaded one, but he makes the ground. He does a nice job traveling in space. He's a good mover, but he loses the rep still, and it's a negative loss for the Jets. Why is that? It's because of the hand placement. It's what we started talking about. Laken Tomlinson allows the defensive tackle to get into his chest. He wins at the point of attack, shoots up Laken Tomlinson's head and shoulder pads, and look where the right hand goes for Tomlinson. It ends up on the outside, on the shoulder pads, and he has no power. He can't control the chest and the movement skills. He can't stop the defensive tackle here from reading and reacting and disengaging on Michael Carter because he hasn't got inside hands, so he can't control the chest of the defensive tackle. It is that simple. Because of the late wide hands, he loses this rep. Look, it's a tough ask, and he does as well as he can, and he almost pulls off this block, but once again, it's a minus for the Jets. It's a loss for the Jets. And it's because of Laken Tomlinson. Look, this is an overly critical review. I completely understand this, but I'm showing you why he was so disappointing. I could show you 20 good reps a game, but for an offensive lineman, it's about their losses, not the good plays. That's how the offensive line, the cornerback position, the linebacker slots, that's how they're judged. So guys, there's a look at Laken Tomlinson and his play in 2022. You can tell he needs to bounce back. His performance is going to be crucial for Aaron Rodgers and the leap this Jets offense wants to take.